Carl Benjamin, sometimes referred to as Sargon of Akkad, largely abandoned his YouTube channel of that name because the advertisers whence YouTube makes its money found his dog whistles to be a tad too audible for them to tolerate. So he started over with a podcast he calls the Lotus Eaters. It's not just Carl who hosts it, his friends are there too. Here's a clip of some of the other hosts of the podcast expressing dismay about the spite-motivated politics of some folks on the right.
One leading child protection expert said the online safety bill... Of course there's an agenda behind this.
No.
Which aims to police the internet and could become UK law next year, should protect, quote, impressionable men from, quote, misogyny. Jane said Will, not their real names, continued to push the teacher at his school in North Wales even when she told him Mr. Tate's views could be described as extreme. He sees a man that is strong and powerful and has made lots of money, said Jane, of her only son. Now, the BBC's scaremongering hysteria here should not lead us to give undue sympathies to the likes of Tate just because they're one of our enemies. I saw this with Boris coming back, for example, and I'm sure you felt the bloody same way, of where I said, we shouldn't be clapping seals at Boris just returning, just to annoy the lefties.
Which is like, even with the Matt Hancock stuff, in the jungle, there was some like childish conservatives online going, well, I'm going to vote for I'm going to own the left. Yeah. And it's like...
okay, he literally killed people in nursing homes, though.
But on the left, right? You absolute fool.
Yeah,
what
he
are
had
you talking about?
higher body count than Harold shit. But it's really funny if he wins.
It's on the left. It's like, oh God, grow up, please.
Yeah. It's actually rather ironic that they react this way to this sort of attitude, given that they are on a podcast started by Sargon, who, when asked why he supports Trump, said this.
Okay, so you're now not an opponent of Trump?
No, I'm a supporter of him.
You're actually a supporter of Trump?
Oh, yeah.
And why is that?
Because he drives the left crazy.
Okay.
He drives left-wing activists insane, and he makes them look ridiculous, and I think it's amazing.
God, grow up, please.
Yeah. When asked why he supports Trump, the first thing that popped into Carl's head to say was not any of Trump's policies. It wasn't any legislation that he hoped Trump would sign into law. No, it was a purely spite-based motivation. Perhaps Carl has matured since then, but I've yet to see any evidence of that. Rather, it seems increasingly the case that more folks on the right base their politics not on trying to improve things for anyone, but rather on the desire to cause suffering to people they don't like. Milo Yiannopoulos recently said exactly this on Tim Pool's show. Here he is to explain why conservatives were upset that the Republicans didn't do better in the 2022 midterms.
The message that people want to hear is things are going to get better, but things are bad. And for a variety of reasons, people are willing to vote Democrat, and a variety of really weird reasons, like they voted in the dead guy. But
I don't think people want. I think that people used to be engaged in politics because they wanted to get a glimpse of a better world. But that's the washing powder version of politics. I think people are well into bitterness. I think people want to see the bad guys bleed. I think that people want to see the bloodbath that you're talking about comes not from a desire to reimagine the world in a better way, because I think people are losing hope in that. I think people want to see their antagonists suffer.
I agree. I agree.
And the reason for the Republican frustration is that they were expecting a rare moment of catharsis, which is not granted often to people with right-of-centre politics, a moment in which they could reassure themselves that sometimes justice is done, that the universe is capable of delivering a true justice where it is warranted. And they were robbed of that.
It seems less and less the case that conservative politics are motivated by the desire to improve things for anyone. It seems increasingly the case that it's motivated by the desire to hurt their perceived enemies. This is especially dangerous because spite-motivated people want to hurt their enemies even if they end up hurting themselves in the process. In that episode of The Simpsons when the elephant walks through the Republican convention with the banner that says, "We want what's worst for everyone," that was prophetic. That would be the official Republican Party slogan now if they went completely mask off. Now, I know some folks will say, well, the left is just the same. But quote me a single person on the left who said that they supported Biden because he drives the right crazy. The most glowing endorsement of voting for Biden that I hear on the left is that doing so is harm reduction. Folks on the left who voted for Biden did so not because they were hoping that he would make things better. Milo is right that a lot of people have given up on that. But they also did not vote for him because they wanted him to harm anyone. They voted for him to prevent harm. While the spite-motivated folks who choose their preferred candidates on the basis of whether they will hurt the people they want to hurt often are willing to do so even if they themselves get hurt, it's also the case that sometimes they're just too naive to think that deliberately harmful policies will end up biting them in the ass. That's the phenomenon that began the meme that goes, "When I voted for the leopards eating faces party, I didn't know the leopards were going to eat my face." Shaun has a great example of this phenomenon.
And I'm reminded of the story of the Trump voter who, feeling let down by his administration, expressed their disappointment by saying he's not hurting the people he needs to be hurting, revealing that they supported Trump specifically because they wanted him to hurt people. They just didn't think the one being hurt would be them.
This article was about a guy who owned an electronics company and who was mulling the possibility of moving its production to Mexico to escape the tariffs that President Trump has put on imported components. Show me anyone on the left who has ever expressed disappointment with Biden due to him failing to hurt the people he needs to be hurting. Another great example of how spite motivates people's politics is the striking distinction between what party people in red states vote for and what ballot initiatives they vote for. In 2020, for example, Floridians, who voted for Trump in 2 consecutive elections, voted to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Not only is that a policy the Democrats advocate, it's a policy most vociferously advocated by the segment of the Democratic Party that is farthest to the left. Another example is South Dakota, which is an even redder state than Florida, where voters on the same ballot that they voted for Trump also voted to legalize wacky tobacco. A higher minimum wage and legal grass are both policies that the Republican Party rejects and the Democratic Party embraces. But the folks in red states see the Democrats as the enemy, so they won't vote for them even though they prefer their policies. They will vote for the Democrats' policies as long as they don't have to vote for Democrats to get them. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.